New York, 1892. The Whitmore mansion rose like a palace along Fifth Avenue, its marble steps gleaming under the glow of gas lamps. The Gilded Age was a time of opulence. Diamonds at dinners, silks at soirees, fortunes made and flaunted. Yet behind every glittering chandelier stood the silent labor of those who polished, pressed, and prepared. Clara Bennett moved quietly through these halls, a maid with steady hands and sharp eyes. She had entered service after her husband's passing, the only way a young widow without means could keep her dignity. Her duties were plain: dust the library shelves, draw the curtains, keep to the shadows. But in the mansion's library, surrounded by the scent of leather and ink, Clara often paused longer than she should. Books had always been her refuge, a world where widows and maids might dream of more than sweeping hearths. One late evening, as she stacked volumes along the high oak shelves, Clara noticed something unusual. A book on the lower shelf, Milton's Paradise Lost, sat slightly ajar, its spine uneven with the row. Curious, she opened it and gasped. Between the pages rested a folded slip of paper, ink pressed in a hurried hand. To whoever discovers this, do you ever feel unseen, though you stand in plain view? Does the weight of expectation silence the voice you wish to raise? If so, answer me, if only to know I am not alone. Clara pressed the paper between her gloved fingers, her heart quickening. Surely it was some jest, perhaps left by one of the young Whitmore cousins, yet the words seemed heavy with truth, not play. She ought to return it, to throw it into the fire. But as she closed the book, she saw her own reflection in the glass cabinet door. The question lingered in her chest like a spark, unseen, though in plain view. Was that not her life entirely? The next night, after the household had gone to bed, Clara carried a stub of pencil into the library. She opened Paradise Lost once more and slipped in her reply, hands trembling as she tucked it back onto the shelf. Yes, I feel it every hour, though none would guess. But what good is it to speak if no one listens? 2 days later, she returned to the library under pretense of dusting. The book waited. Inside, a new page, inked in the same hurried hand. Then let me listen. Leave your words here, and I will keep them as closely as any secret. Clara's pulse leapt. She looked about the room, but it was silent, empty but for the fire's glow. Somewhere within these marble walls, someone had spoken to her in a way no one else had dared. She did not know who. A guest? A member of the family? One of the staff bold enough to play games? Yet for the first time in years, Clara felt not invisible, but seen. The Whitmore mansion never slept. Even past midnight, carriage wheels clattered along Fifth Avenue, music drifted from the ballroom above, and laughter echoed through marble halls. Yet in the library, behind closed doors, silence reigned. Silence, except for the flutter of hidden notes. Clara soon found herself drawn there night after night. The other servants assumed she lingered to polish the brass handles or to catch up her dusting. But in truth, she went to seek the folded pages tucked between worn volumes. You spoke of silence. I know it too well. Every word I am expected to speak belongs to another's design. Tell me, what do you dream of when no one watches? Clara sat at the desk, the single lamp glowing against the darkened shelves. Her pencil hovered, hesitant. No one had asked her that in years, not since before her husband passed. Slowly, she wrote back. I dream of a life not bound by duty, of days where my hands do not ache with labor, where my name is spoken with respect, not dismissed with a glance. Yet dreams are indulgences, and indulgence is not for women such as I. The next morning, she slipped the letter back into Paradise Lost. When she returned 2 days later, another reply waited. To dream is never indulgence. It is the only freedom they cannot take. Perhaps you underestimate how much strength lies in your hand. Each word you have given me proves it. Her breath caught as she traced the ink. Whoever wrote these words was not mocking her. No careless jest, no cruel game. His replies, for she had decided it must be a man, judging by the hand and tone, carried sincerity. They saw her, truly saw her in a way no one in this household ever had. And so their secret grew. notes multiplied, tucked in new hiding places, between Shakespeare's sonnets, inside Poe's tales, beneath Dickens's weighty tomes. Each message was brief, yet each one built a bridge between two unseen souls. Clara began to live for them, the hours of scrubbing and sewing, lightened by the thought of what words might await her come evening. The house shines with chandeliers and jewels, but it blinds more than it illuminates. Tell me, do you never tire of masks, not the kind worn at balls, but those forced upon us each day? Yes, to remove mine would be to risk ruin. Yet each time I write to you, I feel I shed it, if only for a moment. Clara's cheeks warmed as she tucked the letter back between the pages. Who was he? A guest of the family, lingering between soirees, a scholar in the Whitmore circle? Or, the thought made her pulse leap, one of the family themselves. If so, she was dancing along the edge of a blade. Yet she could not stop. The notes had become her lifeline. One night, as she folded her reply, she paused, pencil hovering. For the first time, she dared ask what her heart had whispered for weeks. Tell me at least this. When we finally meet, will you stand in shadow or will you stand in light? The answer did not come at once. It came 3 nights later, scrawled in hurried ink, tucked inside the very book where their words had first crossed. At midnight, in the library beneath the portrait of my father, I will be there, and I will stand in the light. The mansion glittered brighter than ever that winter. Night after night the Whitmores hosted suppers where crystal glasses clinked and chandeliers burned until dawn. The family's only son, Jonathan Whitmore, had returned from his travels abroad, and society was eager to know what heiress he might claim for his bride. In the servants' quarters, Clara heard the talk. The maids whispered over polishing silver, "They say he will be engaged before spring to one of the Livingston girls, or perhaps the Van Burens." The butler, proud of his gossip, added, "It's all arranged. A match of fortune, nothing less." Clara listened in silence, her stomach twisting. She had not yet seen Jonathan clearly, though once or twice she glimpsed him crossing the hall, tall and composed, his dark hair catching the lamplight. Could it be number? Surely not. To imagine that the heir himself was the hand behind the notes was too reckless a thought, and yet the timing, the tone, the secrecy, her heart whispered otherwise. They say the young master is hiding something, sneaks off at odd hours. If his mother knew, she'd have the house turned upside down. That night, Clara crept into the library with her candle. The shelves seemed to breathe around her, the scent of parchment and polish rising like incense. She pulled down Paradise Lost, as she had on the first night. A note waited. 3 nights, and I feared you would not answer again. They press me harder now. Every dinner is a negotiation, every toast a question of inheritance. Yet when I read your words, I feel more free than I have in years. Do you not feel it too? Clara's hands shook. She wrote quickly, breathless. Yes. But freedom is dangerous for those in service. Already the maids whisper of a secret in this house. If they learn of us, it will not be you they ruin. It will be me. I cannot lose what little I have left. She slid the note back, but her chest ached with fear. She had risked too much already, and yet when she extinguished her candle, her lips curved in a faint smile, for even her fear was proof. She cared. Upstairs, in the grand dining hall, Jonathan Whitmore sat stiffly at the table as his mother paraded another heiress before him. Their laughter rang shrill, every question designed to bind him closer to a future he did not choose. Beneath the tablecloth, Jonathan's hand brushed the folded scrap of Clara's last reply, hidden in his pocket. His heart beat not for the pearls and polished smiles across from him, but for the unseen woman who had written in a hand both firm and trembling. In the servants' hall, Beatrice, the lady's maid, narrowed her eyes. She had noticed Clara's absences, her tendency to linger near the library long after her duties were done. Beatrice was sharp-tongued and ambitious, eager to climb beyond her station. "A maid with secrets," she muttered to herself. "That will be worth watching." And so the walls began to close. Gossip curled through the mansion like smoke. Jonathan's family pressed for a match, and Clara felt her every step shadowed. Still, When the clock struck midnight and the library stood silent, she returned. For what is love, if not a risk willingly taken? The library clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the marble halls. Clara slipped inside, heart pounding so fiercely she feared it might betray her. The fire in the hearth had burned low, casting the room in shadows of amber and gold. Above the mantel, the stern portrait of Mr. Whitmore, the late patriarch, gazed down as if to witness the moment. She clutched the note she had written earlier that evening, uncertain whether to leave it or to wait. A floorboard creaked. She turned sharply, and there he was. Jonathan Whitmore stepped into the firelight, maskless, tall in his dark evening coat, his face both familiar and strange. She had seen him in passing, always surrounded by finery, a figure beyond her reach. But here, in the silence of the library, he was only a man, weary, vulnerable, searching. "So it was you," Clara whispered, her voice trembling. "All this time." He nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. "And you. I feared you would never answer that first note. You cannot know what your words have meant to me." Clara shook her head, torn between awe and dread. "You are the master's son. If they knew—" "Yes," he said firmly, stepping closer. "If they knew, it would be scandal, but let them speak. They speak already of dowries and names that mean nothing to me. Yet in your letters, I found truth. In you, I found freedom." Her breath caught. She wanted to believe him, but years of caution weighed heavy. "And what of me? A widow maid with nothing but ink and labor to my name. Freedom for you may mean ruin for me." Jonathan's eyes softened. He reached into his coat and drew out a folded letter, sealed with his crest. "Then let me bear the ruin, Clara. Take this. In it, I have written my resolve. Whatever comes, I will not let you vanish into shadows again." She took the letter, her gloved hands brushing his. The touch sent a warmth through her that no fire could give. For a moment silence filled the room, heavy with all they dared not say. Then, as if the fire itself compelled them, he stepped forward and took her hand. Slowly, cautiously, he drew her into a waltz. No music played, save the crackle of the hearth, yet they moved as if an orchestra filled the room. Her gown swayed, his steps steady, their eyes locked. In that midnight dance, they were neither master nor maid, widow nor heir, only two souls who had found each other in the unlikeliest of ways. When the dance ended, Jonathan pressed his forehead to hers. "Clara," he whispered, "this house has 1,000 eyes, but I care for none of them. If you will stand with me, I will face them all." She wanted to protest, to remind him of the gulf between them, but instead she whispered back, "Then let them see." Outside, snow began to fall over Fifth Avenue, soft and silent. By morning, the mansion would wake to its usual glittering facade. Gossip would spread, challenges would come. But within the library, beneath the gaze of his father's portrait, a promise had been made. Not in ink this time, but in a dance, a touch, and a vow unspoken, yet undeniable. And so their whispers at midnight became more than words on paper. They became a love too bold to remain hidden, a love daring enough to step into the light. If this love story touched your heart, show some love back, like the video and subscribe for more. Tell me in the comments, should their love story continue or end with mystery?